now, you got on the scene then once you became part of the U.S. Senate family. You saw that Florida didn't have a place that people could come to, but neither did any other state. None of the other 49 had such a place. So how did you come up with this idea that Florida ought to have a place?
Well, we stayed on 6th Street, back of the Capitol, for a while.
That's where you had your apartment?
Well, Senator Holland, who was the sitting senator at that time, knew had a friend who had this little apartment back there. So before we moved into anything, we stayed there for a while on a very temporary basis, and we walked that 6 blocks into the Capitol, and Lawton and I walked back and forth, and I saw a for sale sign in the window of Florida House, and it didn't look then as it did now. It was very run down, and it was a boarding house that I think, how many apartments did it have in it? About
chopped into 13
little tiny apartments.
I see. And that back in 1971, that was a pretty rough neighborhood, wasn't it?
Yes. It had not been restored at all.
All of the neighborhood around Capitol Hill. That was back when there was a lot of crime and a lot of rundown buildings in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so you saw this for sale sign. Now, how in the world did you have the vision to recognize what could happen?
There was a flagpole out in the yard, and realizing and watching all the families come to the Senate office, and these congressional offices, there are 2 hard seats in the corner, if that, for people to sit down, and they come in, and there's no way to. The staff hardly has room to work, and there's no place for any hospitality in our offices. And I kept remembering how I felt about that when I came to Washington. I felt very shuffled about. And in the first place, I didn't realize that a private citizen could buy property that close to the Capitol. I mean, I thought it had to be something official to have that. I didn't realize how residential the town was and how the houses really come right up to the campus of the Capitol. So then I said, you mean anybody could buy that? And Lawton said, yeah, anybody could buy it. I mean, it's just for sale. So the next morning I woke up, I said, remember that flagpole? And when I woke up, I just saw that flagpole with a flag of Florida on it. And I said, that's what that ought to be. It ought to be I mean, that's kind of how the idea came, And
that was in early 1971?
No, that was in 70.
1970. Right after the election.
No, 71, right, 71.
Early
71. You're right.
Well, very good. Well, now, let me jump forward another 11 years, and here we are into 1982. Nancy, you're the director of Florida House.
That's right.
It has been a marvelous home for all of us, for the entire Florida delegation, to help us with our constituents. And it doesn't make any difference. Republican, Democratic constituents, everyone enjoys Florida House. All across the partisan boundaries, we have contributors back in Florida that help keep Florida House going. Now, what is your annual budget just to keep Florida House operating as it is?
This year we'll spend about $115,000 to operate the house. Now, that includes salaries for our staff, maintenance for the building, which is quite an expense for a 90-year-old building.
Maintenance upkeep in Washington is very expensive.
Buildings built in 1891 were not insulated the way we do today, so our heating bills are astronomical in the winter. But all of our expenses, including property taxes on the land, we expect to spend about $115,000 this year.
And all of that provides a facility that we all just love and is very comfortable. But let's, for our Floridians who are watching this show, let's explain to them who have not had the opportunity to visit Florida House what exactly it is.
Okay. The idea is that we are a home away from home. We're an information center, an activity center, a hospitality center for people who are from Florida who visit Washington. Now, that includes, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, not only the tourists and sightseers, but lots of business people, business groups, school groups, job seekers. We see lots of young people who are graduating from Florida colleges and universities who want to work in Washington, and when they come up, we encourage them to make Florida House their base while they conduct that search. The idea is that we be a place that they can come to and feel comfortable, at home, welcome, and obtain information about the nation's capital.
And they do that with such expertise. As a matter of fact, it is a tremendous assistance to those of us in the Florida congressional delegation. Our constituents coming to Washington wanting to know where to go and what to see, which we can give them a lot of information, but all they have to do is walk right across the grounds of the Capitol, just behind the Supreme Court building, to Florida House, and there they can have a complete explanation of what they should and should not see during their visit here. Now, you have quite a few business groups, don't you, as well?
Yes, we do.
That come and if they need to have a reception, can use those facilities, or